Hello and welcome back.
I'm awake. Is it really welcome back? It's not welcome back.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Why not?
We stopped halfway through.
Yeah, I'll edit that. So last time we recorded, it was a mess. Apparently the volume is messed up. So I've got to figure that out. I'm not sure if I've fixed it or not. Hopefully I have. Maybe I've made it worse. We'll see. And at the same time...
Well, I would have already known that.
Yeah, but because we're recording this at before it's released, I'm just bringing it up. Also, last time Mitzi fell asleep, so we're gonna have to backtrack a little bit.
So you were telling me I was sleeping, but still, I fell asleep. I wasn't reading and sleeping. Or...
No, somehow you were still reading, and then you were like, "Oh, I had a micro sleep." And then I asked you what you missed, and you're like, I don't know. So, well, probably, you remember, like, the talk about the brawn tubes and stuff?
Yeah, the little man in the brawn tubes.
So, pretty much right after that, the next chapter starts, and I think that's around where you started to drift off, so probably go from there, although...
It was all the clues... I think it was just a bit too technical for my brain. With no sleep.
It's not that difficult. It's just... It was explaining the situation. Well, do you remember, Wait, no, did we get through that? I can't remember. I don't know. We'll just go from...
The key is, did you remember to save?
No, I didn't.
You didn't say, where are we going to go from then?
I'll just try and find the chapter. And just really hope that the audio settings are working properly.
Oh, we can perform witchcraft.
Witchcraft?
Witchcraft. Oh dear.
Oh dear indeed. I think it would be skirmish? Maybe?
I remember Virgilia because you, said it before.
Yeah, that was like... You were awake still then.
It's super windy too, so I got a little bit of a cold.
There is no wind here whatsoever.
No, from being outside in the wind.
Do you remember this?
I think just start and I'll figure it out or I'll remember it.
Alright, we'll just hope for the best, I guess. Let me set this up.
Look at all the times I fell asleep during, the previous episodes that I was listening to, and I still sort of, get the story, so I'm sure I'll be able to pick it up.
Yeah.
I'm just giving you flashbacks. If you could see Tucky's face right now, he's just I can see the war memes in the background saying, why are we here?
You gave me such high hopes from this recording, and then that one session, they're all dashed. And then you wanted to watch Warrior Nun instead. I was just like, as soon as I found out that was a series, I was like, oh, I don't want to start this, because then you'll just want to watch the whole thing. And I was right.
Wait, you were going to watch it?
Yeah.
Oh.
But then when I found out it was a series, I'm like, well, you'll start it, and then you're going to binge the rest of it, so we won't get anything done.
Look, I wasn't binging it all today. I was sleeping most
you
of the
binging
today.
As much as you could, and sleeping in the time where you couldn't binge it, so that's, kind of worse.
Look, I would have waited for you.
If you had binged the whole thing...
I would have waited, but you said you walked out halfway through last night saying the writing was boring.
Yeah, it is.
And then
I
today
just
you
wanted
were
to go to
like,
bed.
what? Oh. Well, you should have just said that and I would have stopped it.
Oh, I'll watch it in my own time. But I would rather you have binged the whole thing. So that we could continue straight away.
Me too, but I fell asleep on the couch.
Reported.
Yeah, I didn't actually go to bed. I passed out on the couch. Woke up this morning with a baby slapping my face and trying to pry my eyelids open. It's a great way to wake up. He woke up early today too. Like, I think 6 o'clock.
How do you not wake up at 6 o'clock?
I did get woken up and then I went back to
Yeah,
sleep.
exactly.
This is the problem. You get woken up early and you don't get enough sleep.
Alright. I don't know if we'll edit this. We'll see what's going on, and I'll try and talk a bit closer so that you can pick up my stuttering and my terrible mumbling voice.
You don't have a stutter. You just need to open your mouth.
No, that's when the stutters come out. Forget what the adults expected. At least for us kids. These were supposed to be a fun couple of days where the cousins deepened their friendship. However, when we woke up, there was an unbelievably cruel reality waiting for us. That'd be Jessica, I think. George, Aniki, and Jessica were crying over
We've
Shannon
done this.
Shannon.
I remember this part.
We have done this, of course we have.
Keep going.
You want me to keep reading or skip through
May
it?
as well keep reading. The other one was so quiet. You may be able to use
Okay.
this.
Right now, everyone who was alive had gathered in the lobby on the first floor of the guest house. And there were 12 people there. Unbelievable, right? There were 18 until yesterday. And in one night, a third of that number had lost their lives. I eventually sobered up from my agitation, and, along with my lack of sleep from being woken up so early in the morning, I was beginning to feel a faint sense of unreality.
I felt that, Jeb.
I want to think this is some kind of bad dream. My cheap escapism keeps telling me that over and over. Maria had gone back to sleep on the sofa Rosa was sitting in. Rather than her having nurses too. It's too related. She probably genuinely hadn't had enough sleep. The adults were holding items from what was apparently grandfather's collection. Short-barrel Winchester rifles. Apparently relics from a time he'd been obsessed with westerns. There were 4 guns altogether. Those had been split up among the 4 siblings. Uncle Kraus, Aunt Ava, my dad, and Aunt Rosa. Paper boxes filled with bullets lay on the table, and the siblings were silently loading them. It's a little scary. Even now, touching one of these, I get the feeling Dad'll yell, "Don't touch that," and hit me. Well, isn't that great? No matter how much you touch them, you won't be hit again. I can't believe it. To think that father would meet this kind of end.
Well, I never did expect Kinzo to die normally in his bed, but even so, it is too horrible. Hey, I wonder if that really was father. I think it might be a different person's corpse used as a substitute to trick us. No, it was father, without a doubt. You saw his toes, right?
You remember this, right?
Yeah, I do. It's coming back. Generally speaking, there aren't many humans with 6 toes on both feet. But that doesn't mean that such people don't exist. I've heard that polydactyly isn't that rare a disease. He was a man who liked large-scale tricks, right? He might have obtained a corpse from somewhere that had the same number of toes on both feet. Ridiculous! Why would he do something like that?
I'd agree if it was a normal person. But this is father we're talking about. You can't be sure Kirie-san's talking nonsense.
After all, burning a corpse makes it hard to identify. Still, there should be a few ways to examine him from his teeth and bone structure. If the police investigated, of course they'd be able to know whose body it was right away. The problem is that we need a telephone engineer more than the police right now. The boats probably won't come in this typhoon. So, will they arrive tomorrow? Most likely, The boat will come again at 9 tomorrow. Then, I believe we will be able to contact the police. It's the same for us, and the culprit. Until the typhoon passes, this island will be closed off. I have no idea who's talking.
I think we did it as QA last time.
I can't remember. Just from our parents' conversation, you could probably figure out the general gist, but let's explain the situation anyway. First, early that morning, in various places throughout the mansion, a total of 6 corpses, including grandfather and all the servants, had been found, one after another. First, grandfather had been in the boiler room, completely burnt. The servants had died, each shut up in the rooms throughout the mansion that had magic circles drawn on them. The cause of death for the servants was uncertain, but according to Dr. Nanjo's diagnosis, there was a high likelihood that they had been stabbed by something like a spear, or possibly shot with a gun. That was why the adults had started arming themselves with Winchesters. And what made the situation even more chaotic was the fact that the telephones had become unusable. It was unknown if lightning had caused them to break down, or if the culprit had broken them. At any rate, since contact with the outside had been cut off, we couldn't reach the police. So until the typhoon passes, and a boat comes tomorrow morning, we'll have to protect ourselves. After all, Rokkenjima is now isolated by the typhoon, and just as we're stuck on this island, so is the culprit. It seemed that the adults had stayed up all night holding the family conference in the mansion's dining hall the whole time, and yet the crime had occurred in this mansion. So right when the adults had been in an uproar over money, the murderer had been killing under the same roof. They say Aunt Nazi has been strict about locking the doors and windows at the night, and yet some suspicious person had entered and left the mansion. The adults had decided that the inside of the mansion was too large to be safe, so they had pulled out the guns and moved to the guest house where they had been. Which brings us to the present. George Aniki had begged to see Shannon-chan's corpse, but the adults had refused, saying that he mustn't do so until the police arrived. That wasn't just because they wanted to seal all the rooms to preserve the scene. After all, the culprit who had killed 6 people was wandering about the mansion. To the Ushiromiya family right now, the mansion that should have been their home was now a danger zone that an unknown murderer could enter and leave at will. After all, it's a huge mansion. There are plenty of blind spots and dark places, and it's too vast to guarantee absolute safety with this number of people. Relatively speaking, the guest house was much smaller. It had 2 above-ground stories, something like 10 or so rooms. Apparently, it had originally been constructed to serve as a small hotel, as part of the plan to turn this island into a resort. So it was easier to know what was going on everywhere inside it, and it'd be easier to keep safe. It made for a good place to hole up in. Also, it was extremely likely that this mass murder of 6 people was a game. After all, the culprit had proclaimed so in a letter. I heard that a Western-style envelope with the family crest, just like the one Maria claimed to have received from Beatrice yesterday, had been found in the boiler room where grandfather's corpse had been discovered. This was what the letter said.
So that there will be no misunderstandings, the game I seek is for everyone to try and solve the riddle of the epitaph, not for you to try and catch me. If you don't solve the riddle, the pitiful sacrifices will further increase in number. It would be wiser to spend your time solving the epitaph instead of searching for me. If no one can solve the riddle, no one will survive. If a person appears who can miraculously solve it, I will give them all the gold of the Golden Land, the Ushiromiya family headship, and all of my power. I was the one who succeeded the Ushiromiya family headship after Kinzo-sama. I look forward to seeing who will succeed that headship after me. The Golden Witch, Beatrice.
This riddle of the epitaph was that thing. That strange epitaph written by the portrait of the witch on display in the hall of the mansion. Grandfather was the one who had written it, or had it written, and the person who solved it would supposedly be given the inheritance or the hidden gold or something like that. Ever since it was first put on display there several years ago, the relatives had secretly tried to solve the riddle, despite saying on the surface that the whole idea was silly. However, up until today, no one had solved it. We were once again being urged to solve that unintelligible riddle, and this time we were faced with the threat that we'd all be killed if we didn't solve it. If that wasn't a game, what else could it be? The bold opinion that we should search the premises for the culprit did come up once. However, there was a good chance they were armed, and there might be not just one of them. And while they might have been able to kill more than 6 people, they had stopped at 6. The opinion that won out in the end was that we should avoid needlessly antagonizing the culprit, and hole up in a safe place while we waited for the police to arrive. After the adults carefully checked that the doors and windows in the guest house were locked, they set up camp in the lobby. As they loaded their guns to distract themselves from the tension, their expressions showed that they were already fatigued from this long day, which had still barely begun. There was nothing for me to do. Now, all I could do was be taught how to use a gun, to prepare for the off chance of something happening that led to an excess of guns. That's fine. Just obediently stay there, me and the rest of you. 6 people in the beginning again. And this time it's grandfather and all of the servants put together.
Most likely, that child has carefully studied your moves from the last game, and has made an optimal move by taking the pieces you were most likely to suspect from the start.
That makes sense. That was true both last time and the time before that. The servants, who know everything about the mansion and who walk around with keys, always fall into the most suspicious category of people. A good example in the last game would be Jessica's closed room. If I'd only accepted that a servant was the culprit, that wouldn't even have been a closed room.
And so, that child went straight for them, probably to block off a method of escape you'd be likely to attempt sooner or later.
Beato already proclaimed in red that there are no more than 18 people on this island. In other words, it's time to give up on that. Now I've got to suspect one of the 18.
That child will probably come at you by stealing the pieces for all the 18, while also making an appearance as a 19th person who shouldn't exist. For then you would be forced to accept that your opponent is a witch. After all, now that the intimidation approach has failed, trying to force you to surrender by showing you magic, the only remaining option is a frontal attack.
Perfect. Bluffing won't work anymore.
Be careful. Deception is what witches are best at, no matter what your opponent says or shows you. It will not be able to threaten the truth that you believe in. Don't forget that.
Sure. As if I'd fall for the same moves over and over. Come on out, Beatrice. Let's get started.
I am already seated at the table of the contest, and my turn is already complete.
To think we would end up having Madame as our foe. This will not be easy, milady. Our moves will be read thoroughly.
I care not. By now, teachers' moves are all old-fashioned classics. There is nothing to fear. So, just what moves can you make beyond the classics I taught you? I look forward to seeing Beatrice. You okay with this, Battler? Can someone who denies witches really accept a witch as a strategist?
Your stupid provocation is pointless. This is my advisor, no, my second. That doesn't change one bit, that this is a fistfight between you and me.
I understand. One as wobbly as yourself probably needs training wheels on his bicycle. Do as you like. Come, let us begin. It's your turn.
Let's begin with the reconstruction of the crime scene. Virgilia, quickly please.
The first corpse discovered was Shannon's. She was found in the parlour on the first floor of the mansion. The door and windows were locked, and a closed room was established.
Beato, I need some details. Let's reconfirm the definition of a closed room.
Indeed. The term closed room refers to a room where the inside and the outside are completely cut off from each other. Naturally, it would be impossible to even affect things across that boundary line, much less enter or escape across it. This includes an all-inclusive denial of the existence of hidden doors, as well as all possibility of intervention from the outside. Henceforth, this shall be referred to as Beatrice's closed room definition.
Let's focus in a bit. How do you define all possibility of intervention from the outside?
I refer to all types of direct intervention from the outside, such as using a fishing line or a long, thin rod. In conclusion, there are no gaps in the doors and windows through which such tricks will work.
I wonder about that. Even if there isn't a gap, you should be able to interfere with radio waves, like with a remote control, right?
Very well. I'll add to this definition that interference due to radio waves and related methods of remote control shall be impossible.
There's also an extension telephone in the parlor. A device connected to that wouldn't count as remote control, right?
The phones are already unusable, are they not? Whatever. I'll include that too. All direct and indirect methods of interfering with the inside of the closed room from the outside of the room are impossible.
What about a voice or a knock? Those should be able to interfere from the outside without someone entering the room, right?
Even though it's a closed room, it probably isn't impossible for someone to knock or call out. The closed room definition does not cover whether transmission of intent across the boundary is possible or not.
In other words, you can't make it so your definition includes the blockage of all methods of communication with the outside? That is indeed the case. Understood. So, Shannon-chan's parlor satisfies Beatrice's closed room definition, right?
Correct.
Closed room definition. Understood. Continue, Virgilia.
I noticed how he conveniently left off Beatrice's closed room definition there.
Did he?
Yeah, he did.
Oh, I guess. ...
Closed room definition. Yes. Shannon's corpse was in possession of one master key. The relatives who discovered her collected this.
Beato, repeat it. How many master keys this time?
The same as last time. There are 5, one for each servant.
Which means this still isn't a closed room. There are still 4 master keys left. It just means that after Shannon-chan was murdered, one of the other 4 keys locked it. Correct. And it wasn't only a master key that was found.
Yes. Alongside the corpse, there was a western envelope with the family crest. Instead of a letter, the key to a guest room on the 2nd floor was inside it.
The key to a 2nd floor guest room. The only key other than the master key that can open the door to that 2nd floor guest room. Is that definition correct?
Indeed, there is no problem, and unlike the master keys, only one of those exists.
In other words, apart from the 5 master keys, there will be only one key that can unlock certain rooms. In other words, this is a message telling them to go to the 2nd floor guest room next. So the adults moved to the 2nd floor guest room, right?
Yes, the door to the 2nd floor guest room was locked and a magic circle was drawn on it. The relatives unlocked it with the key they had found near Shannon's corpse. Inside, Kumasawa's corpse was discovered. It was a closed room, one that satisfied Beatrice's closed room definition. Kumasawa was in possession of one master key. The relatives collected this. And like in Shannon's case, there was a western envelope discovered alongside her. Inside was the key to the 3rd floor waiting room. The relatives moved to the 3rd floor waiting room.
So, there was a magic circle on the door to the 3rd floor waiting room, and that door was locked?
Yes. Inside the room, Goda's corpse was discovered. The room was also a closed room, one that satisfied Beatrice's closed room definition. Goda was in possession of one master key. The relatives collected this. And like up until now, a western envelope with the family seal was discovered, inside of which was the key to the 2nd floor VIP room. The relatives moved to the 2nd floor VIP room.
What's going on here? What are you planning?
The There's no need to glare, is there? It may be a closed room, but there are still multiple master keys that can open it, correct? And besides the master keys, I've even given you keys specific to each room.
I don't like where this is going, but I'm starting to see how it'll turn out. So it continues like this for all 6 people?
Yes, that is correct. Inside the second floor VIP room, a Genji's corpse was discovered. 1 master key was collected. The key to the underground boiler room was discovered. They moved to the underground boiler room. Inside the underground boiler room, Kinzo's corpse was discovered. The key to the chapel was discovered. They moved to the chapel. Inside the chapel, Cannon's corpse was discovered. 1 master key was collected. The key to the first floor parlour was discovered. With this, our reconstruction of how all 6 corpses were discovered is complete.
An addendum. Along with the key to the chapel, a letter was enclosed in a western envelope found near to Kinzo's corpse. The contents of the letter were as you saw. It further urged the relatives to solve the riddle of the epitaph. In that case, what's going on? If the last place where Cannon-kun was had the key to the very first room, the parlour where Shannon-chan was, that makes 6 closed rooms all tied together, right?
I remember this image. That is correct. The 6 closed rooms are all connected. The keys to unlock each one are all shut up inside the next room. In other words, the 6 closed rooms form one massive closed room. And all of the master keys, as well as the individual room keys, are shut up inside it. Furthermore, all of the doors and windows on the 6 floors are normal. No device exists which can lock them without a key, such as an auto-lock. What do you think? It's beautiful, isn't it?
Once again, milady, that is not dignified. When Runaway rebuked her, Beato stuck her tongue at him, without showing any signs of shame.
Sorry. Playing with Battler just put me in such a good mood. So, Battler, what do you think of my move? If you can't think of anything in particular, I wouldn't mind showing you how I made the goats carry the corpses and seal all of the rooms with magic, okay?
Do what you want. I'll listen respectfully to this magic theory that you claim is true. However, I can claim my human theory, even though it's completely different from yours, without any interference from your claim. In other words, there's no need for me to pay attention to this. Go ahead and show me how you can lock the door with your multicolored magic simply by waving your magic staff. Just like those guys with their toad oil and all-purpose kitchen knives. Virgilia, let's reconstruct the crime scene. Search for a weakness. Were they all definitely dead? If one of them is just playing dead, this isn't a closed room at all.
Nanjo confirmed that all of them were dead. However, due to the devil's proof, it is impossible to deny the possibility of a wrong diagnosis. In other words, that child cannot make the likelihood that Nanjo overlooked them being alive equal to 0.
Here it is, that devil's proof. But here exists a sword that can carve that up.
Well, what's up with them? Looks like they're having a good time, leaving me out of the discussion. I am his opponent, am I not? Doesn't he have any time to spare for me?
Fundamentally speaking, communication with one's opponent is not necessary to the act of competing in chess. Every time you've communicated with him outside of making your moves, you've used that opportunity to confuse him. Perhaps this is the result of him not wanting to be led astray.
For some reason, I don't like it.
You are challenging him to a chess match, are you not?
That's true, but... Ugh.
Beatrice puffed out her cheeks as though to say, I don't know why, but I don't like it.
Because the police have not yet arrived at the crime scene, the human side's ability to inspect the scene is limited. For a strict confirmation of death, I recommend that you have that child repeat it in red.
Okay, that's where we'll strike. Repeat it. The 6 victims are all dead. Milady, he has told you to repeat something in red, has he not? Hey, enough lazing around. Do you refuse to repeat it? This is where our battle starts.
What? Oh. Sorry, that's fine, I'll answer. These 6 people are all dead. Kinzo, Genji, Shannon, Kanon, Goda, and Kumasawa.
Why are you so out of it? Okay, so I've already got one out of you. We'll start by denying that classic trick where the victims are playing dead.
I won't go easy on you anymore. Come at me how you like. I'll slice them slantwise, one after another.
Then repeat this. No one is hiding in any of the 6 rooms. Let's see if you deny the existence of people we aren't aware of.
I'll answer. There is no one hiding in the 6 rooms.
Okay. Now I'm sure it's only the 6 of them in the can. Yeah, that's an interesting expression. And they aren't pretending to be dead.
What will you do? What will you do? As if a human could manage anything by now. Obediently kneel to the fact that I can control locks at will with my wonderful magic, okay?
Quit babbling. Repeat this too. 6 deaths were instant deaths.
Instant deaths? Oh, what do you mean by that? It means there's a possibility that a single victim on the verge of death managed to escape into the room, and after locking it from the inside to create a closed room, they passed away.
A classic closed room murder trick. One requiring that the victim receive a fatal wound, and then die later. It is possible for a closed room to be constructed unexpectedly if the victim holes up inside the room to escape the murderer, and then dies after locking the door.
In order to deny that possibility, you will need to proclaim that the 6 died instantly with the red truth. Very well. I'll slay you with my red treasured sword. The 6 died instantly. By died instantly, I mean the targets instantly became incapable of action after being attacked. Well, it might still have taken them several seconds or minutes to die in the complete sense of the word, but regardless, it was completely impossible for them to take any actions of their own will. In that sense, I can confirm that they suffered instant deaths.
Up until this point, I've just been checking for the classic tricks. Now's when our showdown over the closed rooms really starts, okay? If the culprit isn't on the inside, they're on the outside. So they somehow killed from the outside rooms, or outside the rooms.
Have you lost your mind? After all, a closed room equals murder is impossible from the outside, right? That's why only a magical murder would be possible.
No, that's wrong. The right approach is a murder really happened equals it isn't a closed room. No matter how much you try to trick me, this definitely isn't a closed room. It's a sham that only looks like one. However, Battler Summer, only the victims are inside the rooms, and no other people exist inside the rooms. And by Milady's closed room definition, remote murders from outside the room have been clearly denied, have they not? Wait, the definition of remote murders is pretty broad, right? It's not just about pulling a fishing line from outside the room and strangling the victim inside the room. For example, a trap would make for an excellent remote murder.
A trap? Oh, and what might that be?
Just as an example, let's say they were instructed to enter rooms that someone had picked out beforehand, and lock the doors from the inside to create the closed rooms themselves. A trap was set up in those rooms that they didn't know about, and that's what killed them. How's that? That doesn't contradict anything.
There are no problems. It corresponds to the existing state.
There are no problems on our side either. It does not conflict with Milady's closed room definition.
What's up with that stupid reasoning? Nothing suspicious was found in any of the rooms, right? What form did that trap have? Where was it hidden and how did it operate? Explain that for all 6 of them. In the parlour, the guest room, the waiting room, the VIP room, the boiler room, and the chapel. Well, you can't, can you?
I refuse to counter that. There's no need for me to explain.
Just like, answer my question. I refuse.
And failing to do so doesn't damage my claim.
What did you say? Beatrice, it's a devil's proof. The fact that he cannot explain the nature of the trap does not in itself deny the existence of such a trap.
Well done. While overbearing, a wonderful move.
This guy's getting completely used to this.
Check. Due to Murder Trap X that we couldn't find, it'd be possible to establish this closed room murder.
I'll kill that check with the red truth. The 6 were not killed by traps.
And the definition of a trap?
That's it. Something that activates when a victim triggers it on their own. Oh, and that's not all. It also includes things activated by remote control or by a timer. Everything of that sort.
So, it refers to all arrangements that could carry out a murder without the direct participation of the one who planned it out. Perhaps we might sum it up that way.
How's that? I've struck back. As if I'd let a human crush this closed room.
You're looking pretty frantic to win too.
What? What do you mean?
You're frantically fighting to make me accept your existence. Until now I thought I was just being toyed around with by you one-sidedly. But that's not actually true. You're also frantically resisting my counters, fighting to show that you exist. Now, I finally really feel that it's true. This isn't torture inflicted on me over whether I'll surrender or not. This is a fight between you and me on an even footing. Okay, now it's starting to get interesting, isn't it? All 6 died in closed rooms and no outsiders were inside. And there was no meddling from the outside and also no traps. Up until now, I'd probably start suspecting that this had to be the work of magic. And if you decided to show off some bizarre magic at this moment, I might even have surrendered. It's that favourite strategy of yours. You intercept all my moves, and in the moment I've exhausted all options and fallen to my knees, when my heart's barriers are at their weakest, you show off some strange magic and take the game all at once.
That short temper is something that child has always had, along with a bad habit of rushing things when victory is in sight.
After all, milady cannot stand putting off a match.
Hey, shut up, shut up! It's Battler's turn, right? I finished off that trap piece you advanced. What should I repeat next? Show me what you've got.
Right. Now that even traps have been defeated, this looks like a perfect closed room murder at a glance. And that's why I'll spin the chessboard around right now.
Here it comes, that special technique of yours. How exactly are you going to spin what around? Try showing me.
Yeah, I'll show you. I don't need to think of how 6 people could be killed inside closed rooms from the outside. It's useless, it's all useless. That's right, the question isn't how you can kill from outside the rooms. The point is how they died inside the rooms, making them closed rooms. That's it! This is the answer! If you assume that one of the 6 victims was the culprit, this closed room can be explained extremely easily.
What? Ridiculous! I believe I clearly said in red that the 6 of them were dead.
Oh, there were 6 deaths. 5 were victims who got killed. But if you assume that the other person committed suicide, you can destroy this closed room. Certainly. If the culprit locked themselves in the final closed room and threw away their own life, this closed room chain would be established.
The suicide of the culprit. Normally it would be an unthinkable move, but the argument that the unthinkable cannot exist cannot be used. And he has no responsibility to demonstrate a motive. A truly powerful move which can only be used in a chess match against a witch.
Well, one cannot be certain that there was no motive. For example, it has been announced that Kinzo only had a short time left to live. Perhaps he did not regret losing his short remaining life and used his own death to send a message. It might be possible to attach such a motive. Milady, it is our turn.
Indeed, to think you'd trample even the dignity of the dead to create a culprit. What a heartless, cold-blooded man.
I'll set up the dead as the culprit. This worse than inhuman move is one you used to attack Kanon-kun in the last game. Even though the games are different, I'm taking a shot back at you with this move, as a tribute to Kanon-kun for that time. Just now, I've freed that Kanon-kun from his regrets.
Yes, Kanon! Gah! You have no responsibility to hold back here. You should try to confirm that suicide wasn't the cause of any of their deaths. I recommend that you have that child repeat it in red.
Right. But suicide's a naive word that won't corner her. Beato, this'll stop you. Repeat it. The 6 deaths were all homicides. That is painful.
Ugh.
What's wrong? All 6 of them were killed, right? I'm just confirming that simple premise we've had from the very beginning, right? Can't you repeat it?
I refuse to repeat it. There's no reason in particular.
You realize that refusing to repeat this part is the same as resigning, right? Checkmate! One of the 6 was the culprit, and they planned to commit suicide after constructing the closed room. That's all.
Wait, no, I'll say it. I'll use the red like you want. None of the 6 committed suicide. How's that? Are you satisfied? I've struck back.
Kookaburra. What the hell? So you can say it. Well, that's strange. Why are you so panicky?
It's your imagination. This time, even I'm feeling the pressure. That's right. I don't have any leeway. Pay it no mind. The line you asked that child to repeat has been altered. Do not be fooled. Gah.
It seems not to have worked, milady. That's right. She didn't say the 6 deaths were all homicides. She changed it to none of the 6 committed suicide. Which means one of them wasn't killed by someone else and didn't commit suicide. Ah, I've got it. This is the truth. Culprit X, who was hiding among the 6 murdered the other 5 and then set up a closed room. After that, they planned to escape from or hide in that room by some method. However, they got in an accident. That culprit died from an accident that even they wouldn't have expected, setting up a closed room murder that even they hadn't desired. Now it's over, Beatrice. Checkmate.
Damn it! Did you think I'd be cornered by something like that? I'd never announce my resignation over something like that. I'll slice up that foolish checkmate with my red treasured sword over and over again. None of the 6 died in an accidental...
My apologies. We request some time to strategize. Please allow us a brief postponement on this matter.
It's a fair request. Perhaps you should accept it.
Sure, take a break. I've been given those a lot lately. Now it's your turn to take one. Thank you very much. Come, milady, this way. And let us quietly count to 100 inside our heads. Ronove quickly covered Beato's mouth with his hand as she grew thoroughly panicked and agitated, suspending the game. He pulled Beato away, supposedly to hold a strategy conference.
Was that her trying to not say a word, or?
That was, I'm pretty sure, like, Ronove was covering her mouth and she was trying to speak. It was like...
Is that because she would be giving herself away?
Who knows?
Ugh.
Damn. That demon butler. When Beato got all hot, I had a perfect chance to corner her. Beato normally acted like she was graceful and above it all, but she actually had a really short temper and got mad easily. Her usual intellect had less of a voice when she got excited.
Rodove certainly is thinking clearly. He probably gave your opponent some time to cool down. That child grew too stubborn trying to remove your check, and was about to easily let several large pieces go. After all, the first twilight is only a skirmish. The correct move at that time would have been to withdraw.
So, what does it mean? Did I reach checkmate or didn't I? Mate?
That was very... That child was about to say something in red. You probably wouldn't have reached checkmate yet, but most likely you can expect our opponents to resign once they've cooled their heads.
You're joking. Even though she hates losing that much?
Yes, in a losing battle, it is essential to withdraw your troops as soon as possible to try and minimize your losses. The difficult part is gauging whether it's a losing battle or not. Your opponent's butler seems to have calmly made that decision.
Oh well. In other words, she managed to escape by a hair's breadth. Getting checkmate and delivering the final blow won't be that easy for me.
However, you should count this as your victory. It seems they barely managed to prevent a large loss, but they certainly sustained considerable damage. The scale of that child's panic ought to make the depths of that wound quite clear to you.
Seriously? It feels like she'd start crying if I bullied her anymore.
He's getting attached.
As we talked, Renove returned with Beato, who wore a meek expression. She didn't yet have her usual bold smile, but it looked like the blood wasn't rushing to her head anymore. Hey, it's your turn. Did you decide on your next move?
I resign. For now, I will let you have your victory.
Beato told me that frankly. It seemed she'd taken a far-sighted view, as though saying, if you want to laugh, then laugh. It was a bit of a killjoy, and I lost my desire to deliver the final blow. Well, now that you've resigned, that just means we're even, since my theory and yours can't deny each other. You should treat it more like a tie than a loss.
I don't need your disgusting sympathy. I'm telling you that I lost this round. When you find a dog drenched with rain, do you have a sudden urge to whack it with a stick or something?
Nope. I'm not you. Even though she ridiculed me horribly when I showed signs of defeat, this is the best she's got when the tables are turned. I did feel that was pretty cowardly of her, but I decided to act with dignity as the victor and let it slide. Beato resigned. That's the one result of the first twilight. Beatrice couldn't counter my move of one of the 6 was the culprit, and that person died in an accident. No, she probably could have countered it, but for some strategic reason she admitted defeat. It felt less like I'd won, and more like I'd let her slip away at the last second. In a chess match with a witch, battles can be fought solely with pieces known as X, which require no detailed explanations. Thanks to the Devil's Proof, I could create as many strange fictions as I wanted and use them as fighters in our argument. But that only works in a chess match with a witch. In our human world, you can't use such abstract theories to explain things. This first twilight was a chain of 6 closed rooms. It certainly may have been possible for a human. Beato wasn't able to deny all possibilities. However, I don't have a clue who committed the crime, or why, or how they actually did it. It may seem strange to hear me saying this after I won, but for some reason I felt like I'd have been more satisfied if Beatrice had been able to say it definitively that it was impossible for humans. I managed to avoid specifics using an abstract piece called X, but I couldn't deny the sense that some eerie intent that must never be known was filling up this entire mansion. Did you fall asleep this time?
No, I stayed awake.